Earned bachelor's and master's degrees in aerospace engineering from the University of Michigan. He's also a graduate of the International Space University in Strasbourg, France. In his career, he has over 2 decades of work in engineering and management in several industries. Additionally, he is a co-founder and board member of the Michigan Armed Forces Hospitality Center. And whereas with 8 years of committed service in the Senate, Senator Colbeck was elected first in 2010 and again in 2014. He provided leadership as Vice Chair of the Reforms, Restructuring, and Reinventing Committee and the Election and Government Reform Committee, along with spending time in the role of Assistant Majority Caucus Chair. He also sat on the Education, Judiciary, and Veterans, Military Affairs, and Homeland Security Committees, as well as the Appropriations Committee and multiple appropriations subcommittees. Improving the economy, creating jobs, and promoting educational excellence were just some of the many policy areas to which he contributed. He always approached his work as a legislator with a strong work ethic and conviction. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that we offer this expression of tribute to commend and thank the Honorable Patrick Colbeck for his notable contributions to the legislative body and to our state, and be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to Senator Colbeck as evidence of our gratitude and best wishes.
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and I want to thank all the folks who've come out here and grassroots supporters for a long time. As you guys all know, our duty here is not confined to the 4 walls of the Capitol. It goes back out in the district and across the state. There's a lot of people counting on this. And I'm just really blessed to have the support of so many folks. So many folks are tapping in online right now. We're able to make it, but I just want to say thank you guys for joining us. And I want to thank all the citizens of the 7th Senate District for the honor of being your voice in the Michigan Senate. I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve in the tradition of the honorable service of Senators Patterson and Bennett, who preceded me in this position. And those who know me know full well that I can't honestly say that this experience was all sunshine and lollipops. But it was nonetheless a very memorable experience. Unlike many who serve in this office, I never served in the House before running for the Senate. Against all conventional odds, I won my first election for public office despite having no previous experience, despite not being wealthy. In fact, we liquidated all of our retirement savings in order to run for office, and despite having no traditional political connections. We simply answered a call to serve, and God took care of us. When the dust settled for the 2010 election, we had defeated 4 former state representatives, and I became the first senator elected directly into the Michigan Senate in over 3 decades. Now, many of you may recall the formal oath of office ceremony on this Senate floor. Former Chief Justice Robert Young administered the oath surrounded by a sea of our amazing grassroots supporters that are up there in the gallery today. It was evident from the start that my supporters and I take this oath of office very seriously. This oath represents a social compact between me as an elected official and the citizens I represent. Lest we ever forget, this social compact has been bought at a price far greater than the cost of any political campaign. The enduring nature of this social compact was bought at the price of the lives of men and women in the armed forces and law enforcement who gave their lives the last measure in defense of our nation and the rule of law. We owe them a debt of gratitude for their sacrifice. This is why I was truly honored to have been asked to preside over the Senate Memorial Services these past 4 years by my former colleague, West Point graduate, Army Ranger, and retired Colonel, Senator John Papa George, whom I miss dearly. Thank you to all the Sergeants at Arms, the Secretary of Senate staff, and fellow Senators who helped make this annual event very special for the Gold Star families whom we honor. I believe that these sacrifices deserve more than our gratitude, though. They deserve more than a day dedicated to their memory. I believe these sacrifices should be honored by the manner in which those who are elected to office serve. These sacrifices deserve better than politics as usual. The 2010 election was a referendum against politics as usual. We were all tired of losing friends and family to other states due to failed policies, which resulted in what is often referred to as the lost decade. Nothing great ever gets accomplished with politics as usual. With politics as usual, we get mediocre results at best. At worst, politics as usual leaves the state in worse shape than we found it. Such was the case during the last decade. I was not elected to propagate the lost decade's policies and the politics as usual approach to policy making. I've taken heat from some in this body for not going along with the flow. I've been penalized for prioritizing the best interests of our citizens over the quid pro quo of politics as usual. I will not apologize for keeping my priorities straight. While there are many policy details on which we can compromise, I will not compromise on principle, especially the principle of who we're supposed to serve. Unlike some in this body, when I disagreed on policy, I didn't make it personal. I didn't call my colleagues names or attempt to disparage their character or abuse my authority in an attempt to silence their voice. I focused on policy. Rather than quietly pushing the no button, I did not pull any punches when it came to opposing bad policy. We are called to provide a voice for those we serve, not simply push buttons. In fact, I often went beyond vocally opposing bad policy solutions to doing the unthinkable, actually propose alternative solutions. You see, most of the time we can all agree on the end objective. What we also often disagree upon is on how best to achieve this objective. Working up alternative solutions is not the easy button approach to public policy. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours. The promise of a solution that would make life better for all of our citizens, and not just the special interests, though, is worth it. Some examples of alternative solutions which have yet to be adopted are as follows. As alternatives to tax and pensions to seniors to fill a $300 million budget deficit, I provided Senate leadership with a list of $700 million in expense reductions. As an alternative to Medicaid expansion, aka Section 2001 of Obamacare, aka Healthy Michigan, I proposed a healthcare solution that would increase access to care by lowering the cost of healthcare for everyone in the state. Instead of families typically paying over $14,000 for gold insurance plans with healthcare.gov, we should be promoting plans that provide better coverage for as little as $3,500 a year. Healthcare costs drive our state budget. They drive the budgets of our local units of government. Healthcare costs drive our family budgets. Healthcare costs drive the cost of our no-fault insurance rates. Healthcare costs drive business expenses that otherwise could be used for better-paying jobs or more jobs. We still have an opportunity before the end of the year to take an important step towards reducing the cost of healthcare by passing Senate Bill 975 and repealing the protectionist Certificate of Need statute. The passage of this bill would open the door to innovative care models such as the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, which offers quality surgical procedures for as much as 90% lower cost than traditional insurance-based models. I would like to thank Doctors Chad Savage, John Blanchard, Roland Tyndall, Ken Fisher, Paul Thomas, Josh Umbear, Lee Gross, Keith Smith, and others like Teresa McIntosh, who are actively seeking to push past politics as usual and promote the best interests of their patients in the often frustrating realm of politics. As an alternative to our current out-of-control no-fault insurance system, I've introduced Senate Bills 1212 through 1218 today that would lower the cost of auto insurance by as much as 58% while still protecting lifetime benefits for those injured in an auto accident. I would like to thank the insurance industry experts who I've consulted for all the facts and figures for the solution, as well as my constituents, Bill and Mary Pine, who have shared their insights from being forced to navigate the insurance maze after suffering through multiple auto accidents. As an alternative to making us the highest gas tax in the nation, I provided a way to fix our roads that focuses on quality, not increase revenue. The longer roads last, the less we spend on maintenance. It's not rocket science. We still have an opportunity before the end of the year to promote quality road construction and pass Senate Bill 210. I would like to thank Emil Stein and Jeremy Minton for their pursuit of road construction technologies that make our roads last longer and save taxpayers money. As an alternative to the disastrous Common Core standards for math and English language arts, I introduced legislation to repeal these standards and replace them with the pre-Common Core Massachusetts standards, which were widely recognized as the best in the nation. I would like to thank Dr. Sandra Stotsky, Jane Robbins, and Representative Gary Glenn for their efforts to promote this legislation. As an alternative to increasing the control that electrical utilities currently have over consumers, I've introduced legislation to make these government-enabled monopolies more accountable to our citizens. I would like to thank Bill Dabke, Tom Mitchell, Dr. Tacover, and David Sheldon for their efforts. The passage of Senate Bills 1124, 1125, 1126, 1128, and 1146
46 would go a long way toward demonstrating that the best interests of our citizens, not the best interests of utilities, are our top priority. While we're at it, it'd be nice to give our citizens a real choice in energy providers and an opportunity to save our citizens 10% of their electric bills by passing 100% energy choice market legislation. In addition to these alternatives to solutions offered by others in this body, there's still quite a few policy issues that still need to be addressed. For example, we still need to protect the free speech of our university students. I have legislation in the Senate Judiciary Committee that has the support of conservatives and progressives, which would make significant strides towards the protection of free speech. We need to pass Senate Bills 349 and 350. We still need to promote the best interests of parents and students in our education system by putting them in charge how supplemental funds for education could be spent. We need to pass the Enhanced Michigan Education Savings Program legislation passed out of this body and sitting on the House floor. That's Senate Bills 544 through 549. We also need to honor the state constitutional right of parents to access a free K-12 public education by passing Senate Bills 299 and 300. We still need to recognize the risks associated with wireless technology and provide our citizens with access to the benefits of this technology in a safe manner. We cannot continue to ignore the significantly increased risk of cancer, cardiovascular issues, and other debilitating health effects associated with the unfettered deployment of this technology. And I'm saying that as a techie. We still need to recognize the threat of our constitutional republic posed by people sympathetic to the aims of terrorist organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, before you tempted to push the false assertion that calling out the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization is a racist or bigoted statement, please note that the Muslim Brotherhood has been designated as a terrorist organization by majority Muslim Arabic countries such as Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Calling somebody a racist or a bigot is simply an immature way of attempting to silence someone from telling the truth. Name calling is simply the last resort of the intellectually bankrupt. The purpose of government is to secure the rights of the government. And allowing terrorist organizations to thrive in our midst is not conducive towards this end. Furthermore, we still need to send a clear message that sanctuary city policies will not be tolerated in our state. In this light, we need to pass Senate Concurrent Resolution 21. In the wake of the Center for Medical Progress videos featuring representatives of Planned Parenthood, we still need to hold Planned Parenthood accountable for their despicable abortion practices. Senate Bill 162 would permanently defund Planned Parenthood, but has yet to even receive a hearing. We need to pass Senate Bill 162. And while we're at it, we still need to override Governor Snyder's veto of my Choose Life license plate legislation, Senate Bill 163. This bill would provide financial resources to mothers and fathers facing unplanned pregnancies and veterans struggling with suicidal thoughts. We also still need to protect the integrity of the vote. In the wake of the 2016 election, I called on the Attorney General's office and Secretary of State to investigate voting irregularities. Secretary of State responded with an investigation that identified actual voter fraud. To date, there have been no prosecutions. I went on the diagram all of our election processes in coordination with the Secretary of State so as to identify any vulnerabilities to fraud. I repeatedly asked the chair of the Senate Elections and Government Reform Committee to hold hearings on our election process. I reached out to the True the Vote organization led by Catherine Engelbrecht to share best practice for election processes in our other states. No committee action was taken. Any vulnerabilities in our current election process will only get worse in the wake of the passage of Proposal 2 and 3. We also need to recognize that Michigan's population is not keeping up with the growth in other states. We are at risk of losing further representation in the federal government if we continue on this path. Furthermore, we will not be able to sustain our economic growth without an influx of qualified workers. There are over 31,000 job openings within commuting distance of the 7th Senate District alone. Rather than put the security of our citizens at risk with leaky immigration policies, we need to join some of the fastest growing states in the nation like Florida and Texas by eliminating the state personal income tax. That is why I co-sponsored Senate Bill 4 introduced by the senator from the 8th District. In summary, we still have a lot of work to do and not too many days remaining to do it. Thankfully, not everything that needs to be done remains on the to-do list. When we're able to keep the best interests of our citizens front row and center in our deliberations, We were able to check the box on many beneficial policy solutions over the past year. One of the unsung heroes during my time in the Senate is Bruce Baker with the Senate Fiscal Agency. He served as my clerk when I chaired the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on State Police and Department of Military and Veterans Affairs during my first term. Together, we restructured the entire budget for these departments to go beyond simply moving money around to also demand quality services for the funding provided. Our budgets were converted into what could best be described as service level agreements. With these service level agreements, we went beyond funding discussions and focused upon performance. Furthermore, we went beyond the typical annual sit-downs with the departments and implemented quarterly metrics reviews. It took a lot of effort to effect this change, but the results were extraordinary. By working together towards clear objectives, all 10,000 rape kits dropped onto the state police lap upon the closure of the Detroit Crime Lab were tested so that the wheels of justice could get rolling for survivors. We went from 4 out of the top 10 crime cities to only 1. Our veteran services went from one of the worst rated to number 2 in the nation. None of this would have been possible without the service of Bruce Baker, my legislative director at the time, Alicia Gensler, and of course, the stellar cooperation and leadership of the State Police and Department of Military and Veterans Affairs under the leadership of Colonel Christy Etchuk and Adjutant General Greg Badman. We not only improved transparency in the State Police and Department of Military and Veterans Affairs budgets, we also improved the transparency of the overall budget via legislation passed by a senator from the 26th District and I. You can now see a fairly granular view of our state spending at 10millionaccountants.com. Some other big achievements include the passage of healthcare reform legislation that promotes direct primary care services as a means of lowering the costs and improving the quality of healthcare. Together, we saved the historic Willow Run Bomber Plant, home of Rosie the Riveter, from destruction. Another major achievement was the empowerment of parents via the expansion of school choice in our state. Parents, not bureaucrats, should be the ones to choose which education environment best serves their children. And one of the more enjoyable achievements involved school choice of another sort. During one of my meetings with local Boy Scout troops, I was asked why the state prohibited scouts from selling delicious baked goods to raise funds for their various activities. I told them I didn't know, and I didn't recall voting for anything like that, but I checked into it. It turned out that the Michigan Department of Education had acted unilaterally to enact a policy to restrict food options in public schools in reaction to guidance from the Obama administration. I introduced legislation to fix this, which this body helped pass into law. The best part of the process, though, was when the 2 scouts who brought the issue to my attention, Will Cochran and Kevin Kapanowski, made an appearance on Fox and Friends. In front of a national TV audience, they were able to share how 2 citizens were able to have their voices heard and have their concerns converted into action by their elected representative. And who could forget the restoration of our First Amendment freedom of assembly for our rank and file workers, known as right to work. In the wake of its passage, Michigan has gone from one of the worst unemployment rates in the nation at over 11% to a middle-of-the-road 3.9% rate. This remarkable shift was made possible only when we restored respect for our Constitution as the definitive guide in our policy pursuits. I'm honored to have led the Senate effort while the current senator from the 16th District led the House effort as a representative. Pundits said it wouldn't be possible for decades. As freshman legislators, we didn't know it was impossible. This impossible policy, born of the fruit of dreaming big, is now a central pillar of Michigan's economic turnaround. And for the record, the passage of right to work was the ultimate team effort. This team went beyond the folks in this room and the one across the hall to include many union members, national experts, and grassroots leaders from across the state. Now, not all of these achievements made possible over the past 8 years have to do with legislation. When the State Board of Ed proposed new science and social studies standards, which were politically biased and inaccurate, I attended the public forums as an interested bystander. What I saw concerned me. But instead of writing a bill, I wrote a letter. The letter provided specific revisions needed to make the standards politically neutral and accurate. The letter was signed and supported by quite a few other legislators. The Michigan Department of Education responded to the letter with the formation of Social Studies Standards Focus Group, in which I was invited to participate. I went on to serve on a very diverse Social Studies Focus Group for 2 years. The end product was a set of politically neutral and accurate social studies standards that will rectify decades of bias as adopted by the State Board of Education. I would like to thank Judge Michael Warren, Dave Coleman, Ken Bradstreet, Linda Forward, Jim Cameron, David Clem, and James Muffet for their efforts to ensure that our next generation of leaders are taught with politically neutral and accurate social studies standards. Another example of leading without legislation is the Michigan Freedom Center. As one of my first acts as a state senator, I'm honored to have co-founded this organization in 2011 with veterans to serve members of the armed forces and their families during their travels through Detroit Metro Airport. We have since expanded to a total of 4 Freedom Centers, including one at the Lansing Military Entrance Processing Station. Together with our awesome volunteers, we have served over 100,000 guests with the motto of serving those who serve us. Now, over the past 8 years, I've come to know many exceptional leaders throughout our state and nation. I'm particularly proud of my Senate office team. Each one is a leader in his or her own right. Throughout all the trials and dramas of this body, they never forgot whose team they were on. And just to be clear, they were and continue to be on the We the People team. As a result, they've helped countless lives, not only the lives of the citizens in the 7th Senate District, but also statewide, and in some cases, nationwide. Greg, Penny, Joanne, and Gina, thank you very much for all your hard work and selfless service. I'm happy to say they're not alone. Many of these exceptional leaders are grassroots activists, such as the ones that are up in the gallery today. They focus on keeping citizens informed about the policy issues of the day. Many of these leaders are radio talk show hosts, which are essentially grassroots activists with a microphone. Together, we have done our best to inform our fellow citizens about policy issues that would not otherwise be brought to their attention. Many of these exceptional leaders are numerous pastors, like Pastor Chris Tomar, Jason Georges, or lay apostolic leaders such as Mark Gurley with the Michigan Oak Initiative, or William Wagner with Salt and Light Global. Together, we have stood side by side to defend our religious liberty and defend the religious liberty of others. Many of these exceptional leaders are vocal in their defense of other rights, such as our right to free speech, or the right to bear arms in self-defense. Many of these exceptional leaders are prayer warriors. I can't tell you how many times I've received a text or a mail or a word featuring a word of encouragement right around the same time somebody else, usually in this body, is trying to tear me down. Many of these leaders are on the front lines in the defense of life, sacrificing time and treasure so that they can share words of hope and of love into the life of a mother facing an unplanned pregnancy. My friends, we are called not to distill the baser elements of society, but rather to distill what is noble, true, excellent, and praiseworthy. Over the past 8 years, I have done my level best to be a voice for those with noble pursuits. To be sure, I've had my share of detractors during my tenure. Believe it or not, Mother Teresa actually had a few detractors as well, which is why I find it comforting to note that she posted the following verse on a wall in her home for children in Calcutta, India. I've had the same verse mounted on the door of my home office for years, and it reads, "People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spent years creating, others destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find sincerity and happiness and serenity, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway." See, in the final analysis, it's not between you and them, it's between you and God. You know, I still recall when after I won my first election in 2010, a reporter asked me how I'd like to be remembered when my service in the legislature is complete. I simply said that I would like to hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now, before I conclude, I'd like to thank my family for their love and support throughout the years, especially my favorite kind of Bill, my dad, Bill Colbeck. Before I ran for office, we never talked about politics around the house. That's changed quite a bit over the last 8 years. And the same goes for my awesome in-laws who have since become consummate politicos. I'm grateful for all their support and prayers. My mom, who passed away quite a few years ago would have loved this political stuff. Leslie, thank you for picking up where Mom left off, caring for my dad. I would also like to thank a very important co-pilot in this life detour in politics, my wife Angie, who's joined us in the gallery. When we took our vows over 23 years ago to stick together for better or for worse, she thought she was marrying a boring, low-key aerospace engineer. She didn't foresee the trials and tribulations associated with public service. And as difficult as this journey was for me, it was even harder on her. Through it all, though, she was the epitome of a Proverbs 31+ life. I never would have made it through these 8 years without her and her constant reminders to turn to the Lord in prayer. Thank you. So, it is in gratitude that I humbly offer up my record of service before this body. Gratitude to those in the grassroots who sacrifice their precious time and treasure at corner rallies, making buttons, hosting events, gathering signatures, placing yard signs at all hours of the day, walking in parades, driving countless miles, knocking on doors, or attending forums on the many diverse policy issues that I've covered over the years. They, like me, are very special. Unique in this body sometimes. We fought side by side to go beyond politics as usual and restore an appreciation for what is noble, true, excellent, and praiseworthy. They, like me, understand full well that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. It is also in gratitude to those who have sacrificed much more than time and treasure to make us a God-fearing land of liberty. They have given their lives. And it is in gratitude to the ultimate alternate solution provider, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for getting me through these 8 years of public service without losing my way. I came in with my integrity. I will be leaving with my integrity.
Well done, very faithful servant.
Senator Colbeck moves that his remarks be printed in the journal without objection, so ordered. All those in favor of Senate Resolution 192 will rise.